The Puck Portfolio with Andy McNeil.
Hey, welcome to the Puck Portfolio. It is Wednesday, January 22nd. Just a 4-game slate in the NHL tonight, but I'm here to help you break it all down. I'm your host, Andy McNeil, and joining me, as always, is Nick Martin from Daily Faceoff. Nick, how you doing today, buddy?
I'm doing good. Yeah, I hope you got to take in a good Caps win last night. Wasn't the prettiest, but we will take it.
Yeah, definitely was not the prettiest. Edmonton controlled the play, but yeah, Washington. I mean, they allowed some pretty dangerous odd man rushes and 2-on-1s to the Caps, and the Caps made them pay. So I think it was pretty good win for the Capitals overall. Logan Thompson was great. I had a pretty good view of him for 2 periods, and he was excellent in that one. So just continuing what has been a great season, and I mean, got to be getting himself. I know Hellebuck's been excellent this year, but Thompson's got to get some Vezina Trophy love come the end of the season if he keeps this up. So we will see. But yeah, no, it was a pretty good game. I didn't really notice what was on the ice at the time.
I was gonna say, did you get a good view of the nacho incident?
Yeah, I mean, that was it was right in front of me. I just didn't realize what it was at the time. It all happened so fast, and I was more I was concentrating on the play. I didn't even see it there on the I didn't see it on the ice until Perry was actually winding up for the shot. But yeah, I didn't notice that at the time, and then I saw them cleaning it up and whatnot. But yeah, it was a pretty fun night. Military Appreciation Night, or Canadian Armed Forces Appreciation Night there last night at Rogers Place. So that was cool. Lots of service members in attendance. They honored some people that had been a big part of fighting the Jasper wildfires. So it's nice to see them get some recognition for that. And yeah, overall a pretty good night. But yeah, heard a few people flipping out because they lost some parlays though. So you guys got to get a grip. But
I did ask Bouchard to get 3 shots. Maybe my guy stuck that on there because that was a loss for me.
Yeah. I was happy. I was a little bit disappointed that the Oilers didn't win, even though I did bet the Capitals because my son was pretty into the game. I'm surprised he had a voice this morning. But yeah, I was secretly happy that I won both the Caps money line and the under. Was kind of worried at the end of the game there. Obviously, the Caps up 3-2. Yeah. The Oilers scored to make it 3-2. Then they pulled the goalie, but luckily they got that power play, because I think that's really saved me from the empty net and a loss on the total. Did not get the tie in Montreal, which I was a little bit surprised. I checked the score when I was at the Oilers game. I think there was 4 minutes and 35 seconds left on the clock in the third period. It's 2-2. And I kind of thought that I had it in the bag, and then I checked later and saw that Montreal scored with about 2.5 minutes left. So the Habs stole that one away. I thought it was a pretty good handicap, but did not get the win there. But a decent night nonetheless. But anyways, let's get into Wednesday's slate, Nick. The Bruins and the Devils. Let's start there. Boston, they're 3-0-1 since they snapped that 6-game losing streak. And although the Bruins are 6-game, more than that. What am I saying? The Bruins are just 9-12-3 on the road. I think tonight presents a pretty good opportunity to back the Bruins as a big underdog here. They're 8-0-1 against the Devils since the start of the 2021-22 season, and Jeremy Swayman has been pretty good as of late. So that's a big reason why I like the Bruins tonight. They shut out the Devils in their last meeting way back on January 15th, 2024. He hasn't been at his best this season, but he's churned out, some of his best performances as of late. He has a 4-5-1 record. Not great, but he has been solid overall. 920 save percentage during this stretch. That ranks 5th among goaltenders who have faced at least 400 unblocked shot attempts since December 23rd. And he's had 3 days off heading into this one. So that's also a big plus here. He hasn't played since that game against the Ottawa Senators. According to Evolving Hockey, Boston ranks the fifth worst team, in expected goals and shot attempt percentage over the last month. But I think between Swayman's current form and the fact that the Bruins have looked decent on the surface at least lately, I think this is a good spot for them considering the odds here. I mean, New Jersey, they're looking to end a 4-game losing streak, but they've been kind of struggling for a while here. 9 losses in their last 11 games, and their recent play isn't all that great either. I don't think this is just a matter of bad luck or anything like that. Over the last month, the Devils ranked 20th in even strength shot attempt percentage and 23rd in expected goals percentage, according to Evolving Hockey. So I don't think there's really that much separating these two teams right now, all things considered. And yeah, since returning from the holiday break on December 27th, they've averaged just 1.97 goals per 60 minutes, tied for 31st in the NHL. And this is a big game for New Jersey, so a lot of pressure on them here. They're going to play 11 of their next 15 games on the road after this one, and they're just 12-12 straight up at home this season, not counting that game that they played to open the season overseas, because that is not a true home game. Wasn't played in New Jersey, so 12-12 straight up as far as I'm concerned. And the Bruins here up close to plus 200 at one point today, or over more than plus 200. Let's see where they're at right now. At Pinnacle, they are plus 187. I'm going to guess that's probably the best price in market right now. And I think Boston's worth a shot here tonight on the money line at plus 180 or better.
Yeah, I like it. I feel like, I mean, there's definitely some Devils can't lose / have to win this game, get right spot leaking into the market, I think, when you look at how bad they have struggled. I'm a little weary because I still just think the Devils are really good, but they haven't been playing that good, and this is a gigantic price that's giving them a lot of credit. They've gotten a lot of credit in the market all year. So definitely don't entirely disagree. I'm not sold on the Devils' line configurations either. They kind of broke apart Bratt and Hughes. Top line, Paul Cotter, Jack Hughes, Bastian. Second line, Nason, Heischer, and Bratt. Third line, Meyer, Dowling, and Mercer. So they're trying to stretch and get a little more secondary scoring, because secondary scoring has obviously been a huge issue recently for them. So we'll see how that works out. But yeah, I definitely don't disagree with the handicap at all. I think that it's seems pretty clear that part of this number is people just thinking the Devils can't possibly lose another game.
Yeah, Boston or nothing. I think we can both agree on that.
I'd rather. I kind of like if I was going to target the Devils, Hughes in the shot market is the one I'm kind of looking at. His line is my concern, but I still feel like he's so consistent in generating his looks. He had only 2 shots on the weekend, which was a complete outlier, and I thought that the minus 125 being the best price available was decent. So yeah, that was kind of my favorite bet from the game.
Yeah, I've got another shot prop in mind in another game, but I'll wait to get to that. Jeremy Swayman and Jacob Markstrom have both been confirmed for this matchup tonight. But let's move on to the Columbus Blue Jackets and the Toronto Maple Leafs. You wrote about this game, or will be writing about this game, over at the LeafsNation.ca. Is it .ca or .com? I should know this, but
probably .ca, but it's .com.
Okay. All right. Over at the LeafsNation.com, you wrote about the Columbus Blue Jackets and the Toronto Maple Leafs. How are you handicapping this game? How does the confirmation that Dennis Hildeby will be the starting goaltender for the Maple Leafs affect your handicap? And yeah, what's your best bet for this one?
Yeah, the Hildeby news has moved the line a lot, so I feel like that's been well accounted for. The Leafs are around minus 225 prior to confirmation that he will start. When I wrote my article, they were minus 196 on Penny, and the total moved half a goal. So I feel like that adjustment, I don't really know if there's an edge one way or the other. But the prop that I do like is backing Bobby McMahon to go over 2.5 shots at minus 115. I think it's a good look right now. He's playing on the second line and top power play unit, and we've seen all year he's been one of the most consistent Leafs in terms of shots per 60. He ranks 3rd on the team, but a lot of the time he's on the third line. He's not on the power play. So I feel like it's a good time to buy on him after the last 2 games. He's had 8 shots over the last 2 games from 12 attempts. So obviously just a big part of that is a guy who has been a volume shooter getting into better roles. So yeah, the handicap's pretty simple, but I just don't think that the number has moved enough for his current usage. And Columbus is a better than average matchup. Hopefully they can keep this one close. I think right now, if you're betting the Leafs, for me, I'd prefer to just pick some props from the top 6. We've seen how good they've been recently. Nylander's been unreal. Marner's been great. Matthews is scoring almost every single night, it seems like. And the bottom 6 looks a lot more of a concern. So I think if I was, to back the Leafs in any fashion here, it would just be taking on some props from those top guys, because it seems like another spot where they should show out.
Yeah, I mean the Blue Jackets, they've been a great story lately. I'm not sure how sustainable this is, and yeah, they haven't really been good on the road at all this season for any real stretch. So um, I'm going to imagine that Toronto will control this game tonight, and those top 6 players will have their looks. Just
And the
before we
other,
move on, oh, go ahead. Sorry.
just the last note I would put in on Columbus too is the Monahan injury has hurt as expected. The new top line with Fantilli's still been quite good. Or I should
Yeah.
maybe not quite good. They're below 50% expected goals, but they have outscored opponents where it counts. So gone from being one of the very best defensive lines in the league to like a solid top line. So I do think that helps the Leafs guys here, who will probably be hard matched on that unit as much as possible.
Yeah, and he had a run there. I think it was a 7-game point streak, 8 points in 7 games or something like that. Kind of coinciding with him, filling in for Monahan there after the injury. But the one thing that stood out to me in terms of Fantilli from a betting perspective was just how much his odds of scoring a point improved. From over a couple of games, and yeah, he's been scoring, but he's gone pointless in his last 2 games. And I just don't know if I want to be laying minus 145 and prices like that on a guy that really has kind of struggled this year. I mean, he only has 23 points in 47 games, so it's not like he's lighting the world on fire or anything. And even though he has been pretty good as of late, and he does have a much better opportunity to score points on a game-to-game basis, playing on that top line and on that top power play unit. I think the odds, more than reflect that at this point, and I just haven't been able to get interested in him from a betting perspective.
Yeah, it's crazy. That Monahan unit is arguably the very best line in the entire league. I know this has been kind of getting put out there a lot, but they had outscored opponents 22-5 and were scoring 5.7 goals per 60. So that line had been incredible. So obviously it did help Fantilli a lot getting inserted with Chinikov and Marchenko, but like you said, the lines are clearly adjusted at this point.
Yeah, the Blue Jackets have just been killing it on the power play too. 34.2% over the last 16 games. At one point, they had the best power play in the league for a stretch. So yeah, that's another reason I'm a little bit weary of Columbus just keeping this up, because that's been such a big part of their success recently. I hope they do though, because it's been entertaining, and this Eastern Conference wildcard race is just insane, right? I can't remember the last time we've seen something like this where pretty much everybody, except for you can count out the Buffalo Sabres, I guess, but everybody else is still in the mix and not quite out of it. So anybody can go on a run and make this really interesting. And yeah, Columbus, Montreal, teams like that have definitely contributed to that. Before we move on and talk about the 2 later games on Wednesday's slate, I just want to know if you have, I didn't get a chance to watch any games really last night because the 7:00 start at Rogers Place, traffic, all that stuff, had to leave pretty early. So I missed even most of the early games. Any real takeaways from last night's hockey action that you want to maybe touch on here before we move on?
Yeah, the one
the
one I'll touch on quick, because I meant to look at what the number was still at. I saw on Bet365 it was still plus 500, which was the same as it was prior to last night's games. Is the Blues to make the playoffs, because
Okay.
I think obviously another case last night of the Canucks, just like, this team is not what they were, and they're huge favorites last night. Don't even get a point out of a matchup versus the Sabres, who were playing back to back. And at this point, like I just am not seeing how they're holding up so much credit in that race. So we don't need to dwell on it too long, but it continues to be, I think, an interesting thought that they're being priced probably closer to the team they were last year than the team they are right now, being the Canucks. Oh, and also gives me I did misspeak on yesterday's podcast. I was informed I meant to say that the Blues had played 3 more games than the Canucks, 2 more now. And I said the opposite. So obviously, if that was true, that would have made the number really, really good. Yeah, I think the Blues to make the playoffs is a take worth putting out there again, because the Canucks I feel like that team's pretty flawed right now.
Yeah, yeah, and you would expect something's going to happen here prior to the NHL trade deadline. I'm wondering if things are going to, really pick up even before the Four Nations face-off, which the NHL is going to break on February 7th. I'm guessing there might be a roster freeze. I haven't looked into that, but yeah, I don't know. There's not like I'm excited for the tournament, but man, I don't know why the NHL has to break for as long as they are. It's not the
It's
Olympics.
nice for us. Yeah.
Okay.
And it's nice. I'm hoping it'll help the Caps too, who have no players going to that tournament. But yeah, and the other thing, to be fair to the Canucks too, I do think, based off what it sounds like they're trying to get, the trade might not hurt their upside this year. Like they might be
Yeah.
talking about a package with 2 playable defenders for them, which arguably would help them more than Miller has this year. So I'm not necessarily banking on that trade being a thing that, tanks their season. But it obviously could be a thing that helps us too.
Yeah, for sure. So do you want to touch on the Panthers and the Kings? Do you have anything there that you want to talk about? I don't. So
Yeah, I didn't really. I thought the Kings would be my lean, but it felt
same.
like the price was pretty fair. I think a lot of people were let down by the Kings' performance on Monday in their return home versus the Penguins. So I think they'll be keen to get after it and have a better game tonight. But the
Yeah.
Panthers, I think, are obviously a tough enough opponent that I'm not sold on the -110 or -120, I should say.
Yeah, for sure. Big Central Division matchup here between the Winnipeg Jets and the Colorado Avalanche tonight in Colorado. Winnipeg concluding a 2-game road trip on Wednesday, and they're looking to bounce back after back-to-back losses. Of course, they had a 8-game homestand. They lost the last game after winning 3 in a row. 3-1 loss to the Calgary Flames. Then they went out on the road, lost 5-2 to the Utah Hockey Club. That prompted head coach Scott Arniel and Nikolai Ehlers to rip the team post game. Just not happy with the way that they played. Of course, the Jets, they didn't get on the board in that game until they had already allowed 4 goals. So they've got 2 wins against the Avalanche this season, both shutouts. And they did lose 5-2 to Colorado on New Year's Eve, but Eric Comrie started that game, and it's been a much different story with Connor Hellebuck in goal in this series. The reigning Vezina Trophy winner, Hellebuck, is 8-1-1 in his last 10 regular season games. We won't talk about that playoff series last year against the Avalanche. He got a 1.86 goals against average and a 944 save percentage in those 10 games. He's posted 4 shutouts in his last 7 meetings against the Avalanche, which, I mean, is pretty impressive when you consider all the talent on this Colorado team. He really gets up for these games. And yeah, the Jets, they've looked pretty good as of late too. They rank as the 3rd best team in even strength expected goals percentage over the last month. They haven't necessarily controlled play. Their shot attempt percentage is around 50%, but I'll take the quality over quantity any day. And Winnipeg's doing a really good job of that right now. Colorado, meanwhile, looking to bounce back after a 3-1 loss to Minnesota. I was pretty surprised by that, considering just how beat up the Wild are. That's a pretty big letdown if you're an Avalanche backer in a game like that. And they've just won one of their last 6 regular season meetings versus Winnipeg. So tough spot for the Avs, despite being the favorite. They can split the season series here, obviously, with a win on Wednesday. It's going to be the final meeting between these 2 teams, if they do, unless they do, in fact, meet in the playoffs again. But one thing that's really been good for the Avalanche, we've talked about it a lot over the last couple of weeks, is Mackenzie Blackwood. Only 5 teams have allowed fewer goals than Colorado since acquiring Mackenzie Blackwood and giving him his first start on December 14th. He's 9-4-1, 1.97 goals against average, 928 save percentage since joining the Avalanche. But scoring has all of a sudden become a problem for this team, and I don't know why. I mean, like I said, they've got a lot of talent here, but that's not a good mix going into a game against a goaltender that they've had a lot of struggles against. They ranked 24th in goals per 60 minutes over their last 9 games, and their stars hadn't really put up good numbers against this Winnipeg team. For example, Cale Makar, who leads all defenders in points this season, has just 2 points in his last 8 games versus Winnipeg. And Nathan MacKinnon hasn't produced much in the regular season recently against the Jets either. He's got just 1 point over his last 4 games versus Winnipeg. Of course, he's leading the league in points this season, coming off a Hart Trophy win last year. He's only scored twice against the Jets in his last 11 regular season meetings as well, but not really for a lack of trying. He has 50 shots on goal in those 11 meetings and has gone over 3.5 shots on goal in 8 of those 11 games. So I like MacKinnon to go over 3.5 shots at minus 115 here tonight. I think it's a solid play because, they're going to have to really bring it against the Jets, and he has a history of doing that. So that's my pick for this game. Do you have anything you like in this matchup?
Yeah, I like this pick. And I know the under's also a really popular play in this game. I've seen a lot of people touting that. And I don't disagree with that. I think when you look at, and I think this works your handicap too, it's obviously a really big game. So you think you will see the Avs lean on their top stars to get things moving the right direction again. But the problem for the Avs, the secondary scoring has become a really big flaw once again. I think Nichushkin, when he was back, helped them get things stabilized. But now you look at it outside that top line, it's pretty thin. Casey Middlestat's really struggled this year, so that second line hasn't been overly effective. And that really just leaves the MacKinnon unit trying to pull a ton of weight. So I think it's a good spot to try to target a big night from MacKinnon. And yeah, I like your handicap here.
Yeah, and great point bringing up Nichushkin. He's had a setback, apparently. This on dailyfaceoff.com. He's been out of the lineup since New Year's Eve when he suffered an injury in a game against the Winnipeg Jets. He was originally listed as day-to-day, but he is back to being week-to-week and is potentially out until February. So maybe the Avalanche don't get him back until after the Four Nations Cup. We'll see, but that's a big loss. I mean, he is going to factor in on that in the top 6. He's going to probably be on the top power play when he comes back. So he's a dangerous player that they really need in their lineup right now. So not great for the Avs to suffer a setback like that. I understand you wanted to look ahead to one of the games on tomorrow's slate. Is that right?
Yeah, there was one, and these I don't think they've worked out so good for me, but there was one that I thought looked to be priced too close, even though the Hurricanes are a humongous favorite over the Blue Jackets tomorrow. The puck line is currently at minus 122, and I think that's a really solid bet. I really think Carolina's on the cusp of bouncing back and getting things moving in the right direction. They played a really good game last night in Dallas. It was a really good game, and I thought they were very deserving winners and showed a lot of positive signs. And I think we're going to see them build on it versus the Blue Jackets, who'll be in a tough spot traveling out of Toronto tonight after a tough matchup. And I like what we're seeing out of Carolina right now. I think it's going to be just them owning the play, should be able to break through more offensively than we've seen recently. I'm not necessarily sold that we're going to see as much of these kind of trademark Carolina performances where they get 40 shots or whatever and 2 goals. Moving forward as we saw last year. And I still like the power play. The power play has really been not good recently, but I still think it's a really solid unit. And I like a lot of what they've done since Gostisbehere got back. It was one of the top units prior to his injury. So I think in time it's going to stabilize. So I kind of like the chances that one is a blowout. I thought that even at the current prices, Carolina deserves to be a bigger favorite. So yeah, I think that one's worth locking in now because I do feel like we're going to see something closer to minus 400 by game time.
Yeah, that would not be surprising at all. So in addition to the Hurricanes puck line for tomorrow, what are you on for tonight? Just want to recap quickly before we wrap this thing up.
Yeah, I'm just on McMahon shots so far tonight. So Yeah, only the one bet there. And then for tomorrow, I like the Hurricanes, and I'll put out there like the Sens at even money versus your Bruins. I think it's a decent spot to back them. They've still been playing pretty good. I think it's a fairly tough spot for Boston after the game tonight in New Jersey, and like you said, Swayman's going. So I feel like this sets up as one where we'll probably see the number move, and I think pretty good spot to get on the Sens.
Yeah, they did not play well against Ottawa in the last game. I mean, they were Swayman had made some great saves in that one, and they were, they had a chance to win it, but they just stood around while they let Ottawa score 2 goals and send that one to overtime. And you look at the shot attempts in that game. I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was something like 92-50 in favor of the Senators. So just not a good performance from the Bruins. So I can see where you're coming from, but yeah. I don't
Huge
like it.
games in
Doesn't
this
mean I
game
like
as
it.
well. Yeah. That
So yeah,
game on Saturday was unreal. And I the best part too, I thought, was after how the whole game was wild. And the overtime, I don't think I'd be surprised if there was an overtime with more turnovers and less like sustained spells of possession than that game had, which was just a perfect finish for it. Because there was almost no times where the team held the puck and regrouped. There was just a bunch of messy plays and a ton of good looks. So yeah, that was a wild game. Definitely excited to see the rematch tomorrow.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, before we wrap it up, my bets for tonight are the Boston Bruins on the money line. Let's say plus 187. That was the price that they were when I talked about it earlier on the show. That's at Pinnacle. But yeah, I like the Bruins at plus 180 or better. I think the Devils just are in a bad spot here, and I mean they haven't scored more than 3 goals in any of their last 11 games. So just not great. On the surface, beneath the surface, whatever you want to say. Markstrom, of course, can steal the game, and he'll be in the net tonight. But I still like the Bruins at the current odds, and yeah, I also like Nathan McKinnon to go over 3.5 shots on goal at minus 115. You can get minus 111 at Pinnacle, which is the best price in market now. But I think it's a good bet at minus 115 if that's all that you can get. And I guess I would bet that one up to about minus 120. I think McKinnon is going to follow that trend again tonight against the Jets, who he has had a lot of trouble scoring against, but generates a ton of shots. So those are my 2 bets for this evening. Thanks for another great show, Nick. We will be back on Thursday to break down Thursday's NHL slate, maybe look a little bit ahead to Friday's games. But until then, good luck with your bets and gamble responsibly.